All right, we are live and we are off and running. Well, welcome to the live stream where we're going to be doing a lunch and learn together. And today I don't have a lunch. Actually, I have my lunch waiting downstairs. I have a salad. And so I am just having my coffee still, enjoying some time before I got to go off traveling this afternoon. So we'll have people coming in and out. This live stream will also be available for replay. So if you're not joining live, you'll have an opportunity later to view this. So I want to welcome everyone to today's Lunch and Learn, and I'm really excited to be able to do this. I've been doing a couple others before, and so this is still new, and I'm kind of working out the kinks. And so I think I'm getting better and better at this, but I'll let you be the judge. Now, this time is a space for us who are learning acceptance and commitment therapy to work on skills together. And I felt like a live format where I could spend a little bit more time than the 10-minute videos was a good place. So this is a place where we can work on our ACT skills and develop psychological flexibility. Now, in past live streams, I've talked about how we can become fused with our thoughts. And through a relational frame theory lens, how thoughts and language can shape our experience and how we can relate differently to difficult emotions based on those frames. So today we're going to kind of talk about a specific ACT process called self as context, or what I like to call the observing self. Now, this is a really important process. It's one of 6 processes in ACT that help to develop psychological flexibility. Now, many of us get caught up in the idea that our thoughts define who we are. And maybe we do this unconsciously, but we kind of become fused with those thoughts, fused with our thinking, fused with our feelings, and it can be hard for us to distinguish between the two. We might say, I'm anxious, or I'm not good enough. And before you know it, we believe that thought as an absolute truth. It kind of distorts our perception of things and it becomes our reality. But today I want to help you to step back and see yourself with more flexibility. And this process called self as context helps us to do that. You're not your thoughts. You're the one that's noticing your thoughts. And when we step back into this perspective, it can really help us to detach from that thinking that's going on that could lead to rigidness, and it could lead to us being inflexible. Now, before we get started, I like to kind of get in the habit of starting off with a present moment exercise. And so if you're comfortable right where you're at, you can kind of just find a place to just take a moment and be here and be now. So I just want you to notice your surroundings. Notice kind of the room that you're in. And we'll begin by taking a deep breath in through your nose and exhale through your mouth. So let's take this next minute and just simply notice where you are. Feel the chair beneath you. Notice its texture. Notice how it supports you. But recognize that you are not the chair. You are the one sitting in the chair. Now turn your attention to your thoughts and just take a moment to notice whatever is showing up in your mind. Maybe you're wondering what's coming next. Maybe you're distracted by something in the environment. Maybe you're thinking about something you have to do next. Maybe you're feeling calm and at peace. Just notice. But remember, you're not your thoughts. You're the one noticing them. Now I want you to bring your attention to what you're sensing, what you're feeling in your body. Just take a moment to scan the body from toe to head. Notice any sensations that are there. Maybe there's tension in your neck. Maybe you feel a sense of relaxation. Maybe there's excitement, or maybe there's boredom. Just notice those feelings. But no, you're not these feelings. You are the one experiencing them. Take one more deep breath in and let it out. That's nice. It's nice to be present. It's nice to be here. And as we move forward, I want you to remember this. You're not the contents of your thoughts. You're not the contents of your emotions or your body sensations. You are something bigger. You're the observer, the awareness behind it all. As we're talking about the observer self, it may seem kind of like a religious concept, and that's okay. If you've ever read the Psalms, they talk a lot about the heart. And the idea behind the heart is that it's the seat of all emotions. In other words, it's this observing part of you that's observing all of your feelings. And it invites us to take note of our experiences. But you are not the heart. You are something larger. You have the heart. So we'll talk here about the observing self versus the conceptual self. And I just want to give a little bit of teaching to kind of set this up. And then I'll have a couple metaphors that we'll do to teach self as process or self as context. So there's three parts of the self that ACT talks about, or in other words, three perspectives of the self. So we have self as content. So this is the story we tell ourselves about ourselves. It includes all of our labels, such as I'm a failure, I'm anxious, I'm successful. These labels feel real, but they are just words. In fact, we can't really go very far in a conversation without having self as content there. We've learned to put labels on ourselves so that we can share ourselves with others so that they can get to know us. But sometimes we can become so rigid in that perspective that that's all we see. There's two more perspectives going on. The next perspective that ACT has is self as process. Self as process is the part of us that can notice and adapt to what's happening in real time. You can think of it like a stream where it's ongoing. There's not a moment where the water stays stagnant. It continues to flow. In our experience, whether that's our thoughts, our emotions, our moods, even our health issues, they do not remain stagnant. It may feel like we're stuck in that feeling. It may feel like we're stuck in that health issue, but those are ongoing. So just like time is ticking away, this self as process is a perspective that we can tap into, and we can also kind of zoom in and really absorb what's going on around us in the here and now. There's this third perspective, and this is the one that I want to focus on for the remainder of our time. And that is the self as context, or the observing self. This is the part of you that notices all your experiences without being defined by them. We know that you're not your thoughts. You're the one that's observing your thoughts. There's an old saying that I think, therefore I am. And it's this philosophical idea that because I can know that I'm here, I know that I'm aware of myself, I'm aware that I was born, and I know that I die, that actually signifies that I am existing in reality. But this is the perspective at which that we experience all the other ones. So self as content and self as process. We have this third perspective that kind of notices and experiences it all. Now, hopefully I'm not getting too over the head with this. Some of you guys are familiar with ACT and this process. Others are not. And so I want to make sure that I'm kind of bringing all learners with me on this. And so if I'm explaining things that you already know, just be patient, as I may get to something that you're not aware of, or maybe a perspective that you didn't see before. So with self as context in the therapy process, we don't necessarily, get at this by reading a paragraph and all of a sudden you know it. This is something that you have to experientially learn. And so in ACT, they use metaphors to get at things. So we can't come at it directly. So we kind of use metaphors so that we can, use that understanding of that metaphor and then relate it back to this self as context. As I talk about self as context, the biggest persuader is going to be yourself. You will know that this is true for you. You will know that this is how you actually see everything going on. You just don't necessarily stay in that perspective. Sometimes you get too much in that self as content, or even the self as process. For example, like when I played video games, I would be immersed in that world, and that's everything around me. I was paying attention and really absorbing myself in that activity. So we can get stuck in those perspectives. So this is something where using these metaphors, you're going to actually know that they're true, because you'll stop this live stream and you'll continue to have this perspective. It's just we don't necessarily talk too much about this. So the way that we teach this in therapy and in the books, workbooks, is through metaphors. So I'm going to share 3 metaphors that have helps this concept to click. And if I had like a visual aid, that would be great, but you'll just have to make do with the ideas here, the visuals. So I want you to imagine that you're playing a game of chess. Okay, so if you've played the game of chess, there's 2 sides. There's the white pieces, and then there's the black pieces. And they're all making moves that are hopefully getting them closer to the advantage of putting the other person in checkmate. So you have all these pieces in front of you. Some are what we call stronger or more versatile pieces that have more than just a simple move forward or a simple move to diagonal. And these pieces represent your thoughts, emotions, and experiences. This is the self as content. All of these pieces in front of you that represent your experiences. Now, some days it might feel like the board is full of anxiety, where it's go, go, go. You're thinking of the future. Maybe you're ruminating over the past and trying to prevent disaster in the future. Some days might be full of frustration, where it just doesn't seem like every move you make, it seems like the other counterpart is there. Or maybe self-doubt as you see some pieces going off the board and not sure how to deal with those losses. There's a lot of experiences that we might have, and as from day to day, the board might look a little different. Sometimes things are looking really good and it seems like we're winning, and then the next day it seems like we're losing. But let me ask you this: as you imagine this chessboard, are you any one of these pieces? Are you the pawn? Are you the king? If the king goes down, the game's over. As you look through the board and you try to find your piece, you realize that there's really not one that you fit. You see, you're not any one of those pieces. You are the chessboard. You're the board that holds all the pieces, all the experiences that you're having, all the emotions and thoughts. But you're not defined by them. No matter what is happening in the game, the board remains steady, allowing the game to unfold. It's there every time you want to play that game, and it doesn't change. This is what it means to step into the self as context. You can have all these kinds of thoughts and emotions moving through your mind, but you are something bigger. You are the one who is aware of it all. I really like that metaphor. I think it captures it pretty well. I had somebody who was not a chess player, and he was a very big football fan of soccer, so international soccer, and he used a soccer field with the two teams, and he made it his own. And then he also had the fans, and I like that. He actually named the stadium after himself. I really like that he was the stadium. So there's variations of these metaphors, but just this one kind of helps people to understand what we're talking about. The second metaphor I'll talk about here is the sky and the weather. So I want to try something here. So if you're willing, I invite you to close your eyes just for a moment. And I want you to take a deep breath in and out. And I want you to settle into this moment, okay? So with your eyes closed, I want you to imagine that you are the sky. I want you to picture a vast, open sky stretching endlessly in all directions. It is wide, spacious, and unshaken by whatever happens within. Now notice the thoughts and feelings that are showing up for you right now. Maybe you're focusing on my voice, trying not to get distracted, but I want you to think about your thoughts and the thoughts that are showing up. Maybe a thought pops up like, I hope I'm doing this right. Or, ooh, don't forget to put that on the calendar. Now I want you to imagine these thoughts and feelings as clouds in the sky. Some might be big, some might be dark and stormy clouds. Others might be light and misty. Some may move fast and others slow or stagnant. But no matter what shows up for you, remember you are the sky. You're still the sky, no matter what shows up. Notice the sky doesn't struggle with the clouds that show up, just allows them to pass through. It's never too small for whatever weather may come. So take a moment to notice this. You're not the clouds, you are the sky. Now I want you to bring your attention back to the room. You can open your eyes when you're ready. And just reflect on what this experience was like for you. Did you notice any thoughts showing up? Did you notice any thoughts that were too big for the sky? Notice what you were up to, that you weren't necessarily trying to get rid of them. You were just watching them. You were stepping back and seeing them for what they were, as passing experiences, not absolute truths. I enjoy that metaphor as it kind of invites a client to put themselves there. And it can feel really like enlarging. It can help you to make room for those experiences that you're having that you're not necessarily wanting. You actually realize that, you know what, I'm big enough for this. I can contain this. This isn't, no matter how overwhelming that thought or experience is, I am enough. The third one is one that's a little newer for me. I actually have an upcoming video that I'll be using this metaphor with. So bear with me. I haven't utilized this myself, but I remember reading it, doing the Learning Act manual a while back. I think I read it 3 years ago and then recently reread through it. So I don't remember this standing out above the other ones. I like the Chessboard one, and I also like the clouds in the sky one. Those are ones I typically use, but I like this one too. I've actually been on a safari, and so this one kind of invites us to imagine what that's like. In fact, a fun story, I went to South Africa about 20 years ago. Actually, 20 years ago, it's 2000, or yeah, 2005. And we went on two safaris. There was one that was like in a Jeep, and then there's one where we were able to kind of walk through some fenced areas. Well, on the Jeep, they had a regular Jeep where it had four uh, row or four seats, and then they had these extensions. They had three levels that kind of extended out the back, and I was in the very back, okay, with a couple people, and we were kind of cruising through, looking at the giant ant hills, looking at the different animals. Thankfully, the lions and the predators were behind large fences. But I do remember we got to the elephants, and there were about a half dozen elephants, large, I mean, massive creatures, and so they were kind of in the distance, maybe 100 yards or so, and we turned a corner and began to kind of go away from them, when all of a sudden the elephants started coming toward us. And so it's kind of like a Jurassic Park scene where the dinosaur is coming after the Jeep. And they came up so close. In fact, their ear nicked the back of the Jeep. I didn't really realize the risk when I signed up for that, and even after the fact, I realized just how rare that was that happened. And but I had nothing but good memories, with the safari. So, anyways, doing these live streams, I'm probably going to get a little distracted, and I uh, hope you can stay with me with that. So this is the safari metaphor. So I want you to imagine you're on a safari. So you've been planning this trip for months, and now you're sitting in a Jeep. You're watching animals move across this vast landscape. Now you see lions resting under a tree, elephants walking in the distance, and birds flying above. At no point do you think, I am that lion, or I am that elephant. You're simply the observer. You're watching these animals from a distance. Now imagine your thoughts as these animals. Some are loud and intense, like roaring lions. Some are laughing, ridiculing you, like hyenas. Some are persistent and buzzing, like flies that won't go away. Some are work focused, like the worker ants building their ant hills. And some are calm, like a gazelle quietly drinking water from the stream. But no matter what thought may come up, you understand you're not the animals. You are the one watching. So I want you to think about a thought that has been problematic for you. Maybe it's that roaring lion thought, like anxiety, that just won't let you have a moment to rest. Maybe the thought, why can't I sleep? Why won't you leave me alone? So I want you to bring up that thought that's been difficult for you and distressing. Now, instead of getting caught up in it, I want you to imagine placing it on the safari landscape, just like one of the animals, that it's far enough to where it's not going to be a threat. And I want you to imagine that you have this camera with this long lens, and I want you to be looking through that camera at this animal, taking pictures, firing it from afar, taking up close-up snapshots to use later to show your friends. Notice that you are not the animal. You are not the thought. You are the one through that lens that is watching. You are the observer. Now, this practice helps us to take a step back from our thoughts rather than getting entangled in them. And we can kind of go along with the experience rather than being entangled by them. So today we've explored kind of some of these common metaphors that are used to explain acts process of self as context. We've talked about the three perspectives that we have. We have self as content, which is our thoughts, feelings, sensations, all the things that we label ourselves as the conceptualized self, the story that we tell ourselves. We talked about the self as process. That's this ongoing process that's unfolding in real time. And how we can, at any moment, be in this perspective of what's going on around us. This is where the process of present moment, or contacting the present moment, or mindfulness, how those kind of help us to get into that self as process of just noticing what's going on. Even the cognitive diffusion exercises and techniques, they help us to tap into that self as process. And we also talked about self as context, how that stepping back and observing as if we are the chessboard, or we are the sky, or we are the safari landscape, or we're the one viewing, I should say, the safari landscape. So this self as context can really help us to get disentangled from those thoughts and help us to live a more psychologically flexible life. So let me know in the comments what metaphor clicked for you most. And if there's one that you particularly like to share with clients, feel free to put that in the comments. If you found this helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe for more. I'm hoping to do these every 2 weeks. And so today is February 12th, 2025. So the next one will be Wednesday, February 26th. So I look forward to the next one with you, and let me know if there's a process or technique that you'd like me to cover or include. All right. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.